So now we're going to move to the second step in the 5-step Octalysis design process. And that is the Octalysis brainstorm. So we've defined everything that we need to move on to this step. And we'll talk about a little bit about how brainstorming works. The idea is to be spreading the ideas very wide and try to come up with a lot of ideas. We have 4 phases and we have 8 core drives. And if we have just 3 to 5 ideas per core drive in each phase, that's 100 to 200 ideas. Now, the goal is not to have them all. The goal is to create a large amount of ideas so that we can pick the absolute best ones to move on to the next step with. So when thinking about the feature brainstorm, you want to ask yourself the question, how can we create features that leverage the 8 core drives to motivate your user type to perform the desired actions in the right phase? And why we're very careful about that is this isn't just general brainstorming. You've probably experienced before, if you've worked on different projects, brainstorming where you just put a bunch of ideas on the board. You can do that, but the way we do it is a bit more structured. And the reason why is because we want to make sure that we actually cover all of the necessary features that need to be covered. If we just start with a whiteboard and just come up with any feature, then that feature isn't vetted, so to speak. When I say vetted, I mean it isn't checked against, okay, well, what core drive is this feature? Okay, does it relate to the user type and the product? Does it help trigger a desired action? And where in the user journey is it happening and why? So this is the kind of sheet that we use. We have the octagon in the middle, and then we have our various brainstorm ideas all around the sides. And Yukai is going to show you an actual brainstorm that we did for a client in a little bit, but this is the structure. And the reason why this structure is great is because you can keep track, you can put the phase here and keep track of which core drive you've already brainstormed features for. Now, you might think, oh, I'll just start at core drive 1 and just start thinking about what features will be relevant to core drive 1 to my user. And that's fine. But you can also do it a different way that I would encourage, because we don't want to get too extrinsic. We don't want to get too much like we're checking off a checklist here. This is meant to catch the ideas, not drive the ideas. So what is meant to drive the ideas is empathy. Empathy is incredibly important in this process. Though it is a 5-step process that all appeals to the logical mind, if you don't apply empathy at every step, then you get a product that doesn't motivate or potentially won't motivate anybody. Because this isn't just about highlighting a core drive, checking it off a list and moving on. It's about really deeply connecting to your user type and finding out what really motivates them, and then putting that essence into the features and brainstorming from there. So we'll come back to this idea of empathy over and over throughout the design process because it is so very important. So as you look at that previous sheet, you might say, oh, cool, I got a cool feature. I'll just add it. I don't know, maybe it'll apply to this desired action, or I'm not sure where it's going to go, and maybe it relates to the user type, but it's so cool. Like I just want to see it in my product. Totally understandable, but try not to ask yourself this question. How do I fit this cool feature into the rest of the product? Instead, think about it from this angle. Ask yourself, who is my player type? And other subsets of that, what do they want? What motivates them? That sort of thing. This is why we defined it in the strategy dashboard. And now, what desired action do you want them to take? It helps also to just have your list of desired actions next to you as you're brainstorming, because that way you can make sure that you have all your features covering all your desired actions. Because if you don't brainstorm enough features to motivate the desired actions, then you might reach a place in the experience where the user is asked to take an action, but there's nothing driving it, and they might drop out. So this is one way to check to make sure that you're creating a fully robust product and user journey. Now ask yourself, what's the core drive? What's the core drive with the desired action? You can use a couple things to determine core drive. Like I said, you can just start at core drive 1 and work your way down the octagon. That's one way. Another way is to think about, what are the dominant core drives of the player type? Am I serving those core drives in my features? And finally, another way is to think about what is important for the user at this step in the process. And that's where you think about the phase. So the fourth thing to ask yourself is, what phase is it? And what matters in this phase? Based on what you've learned about phases, if it's in the discovery phase, then what matters is offering some intrigue or possibly a reward, depending on the user type and the context. If it's the onboarding phase, you might want to make everything very simple and make the user feel very accomplished. So you wouldn't want features that were overly complex. You also want to be thinking about your black hat, white hat balance and your right brain, left brain balance. So if you find yourself with a lot of features on the right brain side, they all sound really fun, they're relatable to your user, they trigger desired actions, but you hardly have any features on the left brain side, that's an example already that you can see that the scaffolding phase, for example, might be out of balance. You might have the users take action and feel good about it, but then eventually feel guilty, and that will create friction for them coming back to your app. So all of what you've learned so far, you can apply those different lenses as you go through the brainstorming phase.